Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So this talk was supposed to be a talk about practicing trust. It may still be that, but more importantly, I hope this will be an exercise for all of us together to explore and or attempt to actually enact trust. When I sat down to write this, I had a lot of trouble. It didn't come easily and it didn't resonate. And so I had to set it aside, leave it for a while. And when I did, I thought about it and I thought, okay, I got to go back and try this again. And I did, and still the same. It didn't resonate. And this went on for a few days. And finally I realized I can't do this. This is not working. I can't keep going back and forth. It was too exhausting. And so I realized, okay, so this is a talk about trust. How about when it's time to come up here and talk, that I just lay it all on the line and I'll just trust that the words will be there when they're needed. And I actually thought this was a pretty good idea. And then I got a text from Edo-san on Sunday asking if I was ready to give this Dharma talk. And I panicked. I was like, no, I'm not ready. And so I went back, I sat down, and I was up against a time crunch. So I think that really helped a lot. And I wrote it out. And this is all to say that this whole process has been very interesting. And my hope is that this exploration of trust that I've been going through this is just a continuation of that. So let me begin by giving you my working definition of trust. Trust: a firm belief in the integrity, ability, or character of a person, thing, or process. A firm belief in the integrity, ability, or character of a person, thing, or process. Now, about a month ago, I had an epiphany while I was at work. And it really got me to thinking about this whole process of trust and how it actually works and what it actually means. I was the engine driver one night and we were getting ready to leave the scene of a house fire. Now, as a driver, I am required to have a spotter at the tail end of the engine to spot me, so to make sure that my path is clear. And there was two things that I realized that night. The first is the spotter is my eyes. He or she is seeing what I need to see, my path, but cannot. The second is that trust requires me, or anyone for that matter, to take action. In order to enact trust, I have to engage in the activity of actually doing something. I have to act something out. And where this acting out takes place is my field of practice. And where I and my spotter are acting is our field of practice. As I reflected on this set of circumstances, I realized that this is happening all the time with me, every day, throughout the day, with people I know and even with people that I don't know. And in fact, none of this can happen in any sort of meaningful and healthy way without our enactment of trust. So let me now bring this exploration to the present moment and the set of circumstances which we find ourselves. And keep in mind that what I say about this moment in regards to the enactment of trust can be applied to any situation where trust is required. There are countless opportunities to enact trust throughout our daily lives. So going back to the definition of trust, I want to focus a bit on the word integrity. The word integrity to me means that I will show up when I say I will show up, and I will do what I say I will do. And obviously showing up means showing up physically, but it also means showing up mentally. And both these aspects of showing up are vital when we enact trust. Secondly, this word for me implies a strength of character. For our purposes here, strength of character means a positive trait that is valued and contributes to the fulfillment of self and others. When I can connect to this strength of character in a determined, deliberate, and meaningful way, I can then find my ability to act in ways that are appropriate and always suited to the task at hand. Even the seemingly mundane activity of backing a fire engine requires a certain strength of character that should not be overlooked. And of course, it requires us to show up. It requires me to show up. And it is in these commonplace activities where the enactment of trust can be cultivated. And it is also an opportunity to take our practice off the cushion, thereby enlarging our field of practice. To be sure, this enactment does and should begin on the cushion, but at some point, we have to be able and willing to expand our field of practice. Now, the enactment of trust hinges on my ability to hold the space of this moment without judgment, which I think is a fundamental aspect of Zazen on or off the cushion. This means allowing whatever is arising within or without to have its natural life. Holding space without judgment means I am not reacting in a negative or unhealthy way that might undermine this natural unfolding. On the cushion, this could mean remaining still, keeping the body motionless so that I can more clearly see what might otherwise be obscured by the movement of my body. Off the cushion, this could mean taking stock of my current internal state and the associated external circumstances. Now, I think that this happens quite naturally, and that it happens more time and more often than we might realize. But for me, it has taken this practice to fully understand and appreciate this process and how it is constantly unfolding in my life. So, as I attempt to enlarge my field of practice, that is, as I sit here and speak words, and you sit out there and listen, we are enacting trust. Together, we are, each of us, holding space to a greater or lesser degree that allows each of us to move and articulate, when necessary, our strength of character in a particular and unique way. This is the essence of enacting trust. And this Zendo is our field of practice where the enactment takes place. Now, at some point, if all goes according to plan, our field of practice becomes our field of play. And when it becomes our field of play, we have come to the point where our practice is second nature. We don't have to think about it. We don't have to think about what we are doing. Every action in our field of play becomes natural and appropriate. Now, for me, the transition from my field of practice to my field of play oftentimes requires a superpower. And that superpower is patience. Patience, steadfast perseverance, and cheerful willingness no matter what the circumstances. And steadfastness means, first and foremost, my ability to hold the space of the moment, both from within and without, and the discipline to bring my attention time and time again back to the strength of my character that is always right here. When this becomes second nature to me, my field of play dramatically opens up. And this brings me to Sangha. Sangha is where we can work ourselves out in an environment of trust that is always already at hand. And what I mean by always already at hand is that it is unnecessary to make a distinction between our field of practice and our field of play. It's all play. When I approach my practice in this manner as an endless field of play, I immediately feel a sense of ease. I am more able to freely confront my doubts and my fears. I am able to trust more deeply the words and deeds of the Buddhas and the ancestors. And of course, you all, my teacher, and all the friends and strangers I may meet throughout the day. And perhaps, for a moment at least, I can drop the facade of me. I will finish with two quotes. The first is an Irish proverb that I think speaks to the unavoidable reality of the interconnectedness of our existence with each other and with our environment, and why the enactment of trust with each other is so important. We live our lives in the shadow of others. We live our lives in the shadow of others. And lastly, a quote from Master Dogen that I think beautifully articulates how we should approach our enactment of trust with one another, which I think our Sangha does quite well. The whole pure assembly should abide in mindfulness that everyone in the study hall is each other's parent, sibling, relative, teacher, and good friend. With mutual affection, take care of each other sympathetically. And if you harbor some idea that is difficult to encounter each other like this, nevertheless display an expression of harmony and accommodation. Thank you.